Hi, thanks for clicking to watch this video. Just a friendly caution, this video is not necessarily suitable for children under the age of 13. However, for matters of educational purposes, I would highly advise that you consider parental guidance, especially if you decide to watch this video with a minor. Now, besides this, I will try as much as possible. The word is try. I'll try as much as possible to code certain words so that I do not come out in a graphical way in my explanation. And also in this way, I'm also trying to keep your discretion on a low level. All in all, this video is created as an eye-opener, especially for parents, to know what happens whenever they are not around their children, and also as an arming tool for the sake of some young lads who are also struggling with sexual immorality. I'll try as much as possible as to not disclose the identity of the people who are involved in my story, but if they get to watch this video, if at all they do remember some of these scenarios, then definitely they'll be able to identify themselves in this story. But for now, I'll keep their identity out in my story. And lest I forget, I share this. I share my story, especially this experience, based on the fact that I am already delivered from sexual immorality. I've been delivered from the grip of sexual immorality, and I pray that this video would help someone who is also struggling with the same problem or with something similar to what I had been dealing with, and would also find the liberty of being delivered from it as well. Now, as a matter of laying the base foundation for this whole video, I would like to make a statement about what I believe sex is all about. I believe that sex is a gift from God given freely to mankind. For primarily, the primary cause for sex was to reproduce, and secondarily, so that man and woman would have intimate moments together as husband and wife. And sex was meant to be enjoyed within the context of marriage. So if you are thinking of getting married, or if you are looking forward to marry someone, or you are soon getting married, or perhaps you haven't yet married, or you have not yet been married, I would highly advise that if you can, as much as you can, please stay away from anything that is going to lead you to anything related to sex or sexual activity. I know that this video is going to get a lot of backlash from some people who may have a different view as compared to mine, but I have learned that the truth is to be told at all times, however messy it may be, however unpleasant it may be. So long as it is the truth, it is to be told. And how do you tell the truth? Is by knowing the truth. And I hope that after watching this whole video, you yourself, you find out the truth for yourself. Do not take my word for it, but I am here just to share my own experience, so that from my experience, you may also be able to know what other people go through looking at what I went through. Well, if you have watched this video up to this point, thank God. So I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kerons, and in this particular video, I am going to share part of my testimony of how deep the claws of sexual immorality had gotten me into. Well, if you are new to this channel, feel free, and please also consider subscribing. And don't forget to activate the bell notification so that you do not miss any of my subsequent video, as I'll be posting them in time to come. And I believe that the title of this video alone deserves a thumbs up, so please do me a favor and a solid, give it a thumbs up, share, and I would really love to hear your comment in as far as maybe your story is concerned, or anything that I may have mentioned which may have either opened your eyes to see something. I would so much love to hear from you, and please do me a favor and drop your comments down below. Well, I know that since you are already here, after watching this video, you can, if you feel free, you can take your time and watch the other videos as well. It will not bite. So without any further ado, I would like to begin my story. I was born and raised in an extended family. Of course, by extended family, I hope you understand. Besides the mother, father, and the children, we had also other members who made up the family. We had our relatives like our cousins and our aunties, distant relatives whom I could not even trace the lineage or the connection between us and them. And also there were friends of my father, or friends of my mom, who would come by or at times spend a night and stuff like that. So being that it was a very big family and the house was small, we had difficulties in accommodation. And so to the extent that sometimes we had to share beds, and you may find that the mattress that is only meant for one person, 2 or 3 people share the same mattress. The beauty of it is that since you are many, whenever you are going to bed, it's more of an enjoyment. It's more of another form of another form of an entertainment. We had a lot of fun together. We would sing songs at night, and I used to love it whenever it creeps in. Whenever it turns out dark, and especially when there was no electricity, we would all sit outside staring up in the sky, counting the stars, looking at the moon. Oh my god, it was an it was a joyous moment that we did really spend with our family. But that is not the basis. That is not the root of how everything started. I'm more just laying out the foundation of my life. So I remember one day how it all began was this. One day, I do not know for whatever reason that it was, I was left home alone. And I was by myself. I remember, I believe it was like some hours in the morning, like between 10 and 11. It's because the sun was up. I think I'd also not yet started school. Of course, I was like between 3 and 4 years old, and I remember vividly how most of these things played out. In my innocence and in my ignorance, I was able to, in my innocence and in my ignorance, I can right now still recall the pictures so vividly, because that was the genesis of my entire problem and in my entire journey into all these things. So we had neighbors around. The setting of the home was like, our house was like right here, and then we had neighbors like who are living in the corner, and there were also neighbors. Well, basically it was a very well spread neighborhood. So one of the neighbors had a house girl whom other people call a housemaid and others call them house manager. She had a house girl who used to stay at her home, and this house girl happened to be her niece, and she had come over to help with house chores. So one time she sees me playing outside all by myself, and she calls me, Frank, come over here. She calls me, Frank, come over here. So I go to her, and she ushers me into the house. And then the next thing I remember was that she sat me on the chair. I do not remember whether she offered me something to drink or she just went into business. But all that I remember was that she sat me on the chair, and then she went quickly, checked if at all there was anyone outside. She checked on the other door, making sure that the doors was locked. And then she goes inside a room that was from where I was sitting. There was just a curtain dividing where I was sitting, the sitting room and the bedroom. So she goes behind the curtain and she calls me to follow her inside there. So I find her sitting on the bed, and she was half naked. So she tells me to, she starts giving me all these instructions, tells me to take off my panties, my shorts. By then I used to put on shorts. So she told me to remove my shorts. So I removed my short, and she instructed me to sit on the bed. And so when I sat on the bed, and then she drops her skirt, and then she comes and sits on me, and then later on gets off, and then plays around with my ding dong, and then the reaction kicks in, and I saluted at that moment. I can tell you graphic, I can remember the whole image as it was, because that was the first time I'm seeing this thing, and it happened so vividly, so quick, that I cannot forget. So she plays around with my ding dong, and my ding dong stands up, and after that she sits on me. I can tell you right now that I did not know what was happening. Remember, I was young, roughly between 3 and 4 years old. I was young. I had never been introduced to sex. That was my first time being introduced to that activity. I never knew before that could also happen to a human being. So she did whatever she did, which I could not understand. And then after that, she got up, and then she tells me to put on my shorts. So I put on my shorts. Innocently, I jumped out of the house, and I continued playing. The day went on, but still, it did not really settle in my mind quite vividly at that time. And then another day, my cousin had come home. She was quite elderly. I can't really place the age because I could not at that time tell how old she was. So my cousin was at home. She had come to visit us, and she calls me right now. By the she passed on. So she calls me also. That day we were alone at home. I don't remember, by some means, whenever a time for that activity was going to come to pass, people would not be at home, and I would be home alone with someone, or with and then things happen. So she calls me inside the house. Well, the house setting is still the same. There was the sitting room was divided with a curtain. There was a bed the other side of the sitting room, knowing that it was a small house. So there was a bed the other side of the curtain. Then there was a sitting room right here. Remember what I said, that we were very many at that home, so we would share beds, and some would, to the extent that some beds were really left to stand inside of the living room. So I remember she calls me on the section where the bed was, and I go there, and she still does the same thing to me. She orders me to take off my pants, and so she tells me to stand on the bed, and this time around she tries to lay on me. I don't know, by some means she said, no, you come and lay here, and she instructed me on how to get things going, which I did innocently. I did not know what was happening. And I would like to say this. If mom is watching this today, mom, if you're watching this, I know I had never told you this, because in my innocence and in my childishness, I never understood. I never even knew what was happening. So forgive me because I kept this away from you, but these are the facts, the truth of the things that happened. And my sisters and my brothers are also going to watch this. This will be the first time they're hearing me say this, but I wanted to say it out on live stream media, so that the whole world can know what happens when parents leave their children unattended to or without any close monitoring. Children are children. They are born to be directed. They are born to be instructed to do certain things. So without any guidance from a parent, without any guidance from an elderly person, they are born to do the wrong things. And if the guidance comes from a perverted mind, then definitely they are going to be perverted as well, and they will end up doing the wrong things. So in continuation, back to the story now. So that happened with my cousin. As I said, I do not disclose names, but my siblings know this cousin whom I'm talking about. So from that time on, it never really still occurred to me that I had been molested. However, with all those two occurrences, a door was opened in my spirit. A door of lust, a door of incest, a door of sexual perversion and sexual immorality. All those doors were opened in my childhood, which now later on, these things that were revealed to me, that were that I was exposed to, later on turned out to like they graduated from what it was then to something much bigger. I was addicted. Later on, I will explain to you how it all came about. I became addicted to pornography. I became addicted to sex. I became addicted to masturbation, which also turned out to fornication, adultery, and every other thing that you can think about. It all started from the time when I was young. Now, whatever thing that these two ladies did to me in my childhood, they changed my thinking. Every time I would see a girl, or whether it was a young girl who was in my age bracket or it was an elderly lady or an elderly woman, immediately my mind switches into lusting after them. Immediately I start looking at them as sex object. I cease to see them for who they are. I cease to consider their value for what they are able to offer, but I look at them as possible candidates for my sex predatorship, looking forward just to dominate them sexually. And it so happened that one time, I remember vividly, while at home, one of our neighbors had 3 children. There was a set of twins and the other girl. The other girl, I remember her name, she was called Caroline, and she had younger sisters who are twins. So Caroline was in my age bracket, I think around 4 or 5 years old, and the siblings were much younger. Now I remember we were playing outside, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves, I don't even know how things happened, we found ourselves inside Caroline's mother's bed, and we were playing on the bed, and her siblings were right there. And remember how the seed was planted into me that every time I was next to a girl, I only lust after them. The only thing that came into my mind then was having sex with them. And so we were playing on the bed. I remember I took off knickers and panties and stuff like that, and we did it right on the mother's bed. We left it disorganized, and the whole house was turned topsy-turvy. We continued playing, but after a while, I left their home and I came back to our home. Remember, we were neighbors. So I think the mother comes back home and finds the house turned topsy-turvy, and then turns to the small girls whom she left at home, who did this and what happened here. And I think, I wasn't there, but this is what I'm recollecting. And I think the young ones may have reported this other elder one that she was playing with the neighbor's son. And then the mother rushes quickly, comes to my mother, finds me at home, and then reports me to my mother, telling her everything that happened, and explained to her even how things went down at our house. So my mother calls me and questions me, asks me a series of questions here and there, and to which confirms what this woman was saying. Then later on, I was punished. Should I call it? I was disciplined. Yes, I was disciplined that day. And one of the ultimate discipline was my hair was cut off. And from that day, I thought to myself, being young as I was, I thought to myself that having a haircut was a punishment for having fornicated. I thought to myself that fornication, the punishment to fornication was shaving one's hair off. Well, I was young, you can't blame me. So my mom displayed me that day. It also went by, but there were also series of countless sessions that I had with the opposite sex from that day henceforth. Some of which I can't remember, and remember that seed alone of having been introduced to sex before my time was right. It exposed me to incest, just as my cousin did to me. It exposed me to incest. I never had regard of who was my cousin, who was my sister. Everyone, every lady, everyone in the opposite sex became a potential candidate for me to sleep with. I wouldn't desire this to happen to anyone, especially children, because my time was not right. And it wasn't my time to be exposed to such an activity at an early age. But I was exposed to it, and it had a long toll from the time I was young until recently when I was finally delivered from it. Now, this was my own experience of being molested. I just wonder how many children, even today as we speak, are being molested with one. They are young and they do not know exactly what is happening, just as I was young and innocent at that time. I wonder how many children are being molested in that format and their parents not even knowing what is going on. I wonder. My father never knew what happened. He's deceased now. My mother, up to now, she does not know. This would be the first time that she's hearing this. But all in all, my caution would be, my advice would be for parents. I know this may come out from being, all in all, my advice actually goes to parents. I am a parent too. I can tell you one thing, that considering my experience at that during that time when I was young, I have developed jealousy over my child. I would not want to give my child out to someone. Neither would I want to leave her with someone whom I do not fully trust, unless it is me or her mother. I don't want to leave my child with anyone else whom I do not trust. And also, even though it is a family member, if that family member has not been transformed in the image of Christ, then it is not safe to leave them with that family member. A lot of times how these things happen is that we so much have trust for in our family members, our friends, and say, this is my family member, this is my friend, this is my cousin, this is my brother. They will not have any negative thought towards our child. Think twice, because a lot of times when people are explaining how they had been raped, in most cases it was by a relative, in most cases, and in some instances it was by a family member. So my caution is that yes, of course your child will have to grow, your child will have to mingle with other people. You don't have to keep your child all to yourself, because there will come a time where they will have to go out and experience the world by themselves. But my whole emphasis is that try as much as possible to be in the life of your child. Everything that goes on in the life of a child may not be good for them, may not also please you either. So try as much as possible to be in their life, so that you will also have the position of knowing the things that you wouldn't have known if at all you were not their friends. In Africa, the setting is that Parents are parents and children are children. So there is no intermingling. There is no friendship right in the middle there. I'll tell you this one story. I grew up all my life not knowing that a parent can also love their children to the extent that they can also profess their love for their children. I'd already grown up. My mom told me that she loves me. It came out as a surprise to me because I had never heard her say it. So right now I am teaching myself to tell my child that I love them. I'm teaching myself to tell them that I love them. So this love is not only in words, but this love is expressed in everything that I do for them. So I'm going to end this video right here. And I'm going to make a follow-up of the lessons that I learned from my own experience and the things that I would not, or that I would have to consider doing for my child. So from me to you, take care of your children, take care of your family, and make sure that you are in your child's life. So till I see you again in the next video, take care, and don't forget to drop your comments down below, hit the like button, and also subscribe if you haven't yet already. See you.